J. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus J. Live from the Den. Legacy Internet Radio. Be down with us tonight at 804-402-2893. Be part of the flagship show here on Legacy Internet Radio, keeping the discussion moving. At this point, I'd like to introduce my co-host who has joined us here in studio. We hear from her every single week right here on the live line of Legacy Internet Radio and Ain't No Half Steppin Marcus J. I got my co-host, my big sister, S.Y. Butler. What's up, baby?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
I'm okay.
Just
chilling. It's Monday.
Yes, it's Monday. I'm glad to see you ready to move on and get into some interesting topics and discussions here.
Let's do it, baby.
All right, let's do it. All right. I want Grizzy on this one first. We talked a little bit about how I was going to take the turn and kind of get some religious-based stuff in here. So here is the first of the two. Getting this one from rawstory.com. It's about a Muslim-free Arkansas shooting range that turned away a brown-skinned father and son duo. They said that they were turned around from a Muslim-free Arkansas shooting range because they were, in fact, brown-skinned. The duo actually are not Muslim, but are from South Asia. They said they were questioned about their religion and background while filling out paperwork at the gun cave in Hot Springs. The men told a woman at the counter they were from Hot Springs, and she informed them that the business was a, quote, Muslim-free shooting range, end quote, and if they didn't like the rule, they should leave. The younger man told the newspaper that they were not Muslim, but the father asked about the ban and discussed the rule. Quote, then all of a sudden, I don't know what went wrong, but she stopped us from filling out the paperwork and said, I don't think you guys should be here. The younger man said, she told us to leave and she called the cops on us. The men decided to leave to avoid additional trouble. Quote, we're brown. I don't know if she assumed we were Muslim. When she first asked us, she said, I hope if you were Muslim, you guys wouldn't be cowards and would be upfront about it. End quote. The man said he was born in the U.S. and lived in Hot Springs for 10 years, and he and his father had gone to the shooting range to enjoy guy time before he went off to college elsewhere in the state. He said the shooting range had changed owners since then, and current owner Jan Morgan claims she has thoroughly studied the Quran and found, quote, 109 verses commanding hate, murder, and terror against all human beings who refuse to submit or convert to Islam. Wow. Since I have no way of discerning which Muslims will or will not kill in the name of their religion and the commands in their Quran, I choose to err on the side of caution for the safety of my patrons, she posted on her website. The newspaper said to call to the gun shop seeking comment was rewarded with a swift hang-up, end quote. So, Grizz, want you in on this one first, my brother?
All right, I will definitely go in on this. I
won't even ask a question. Just start talking.
No, you want you want the question? Go ahead.
I ain't even gonna ask one. I don't think there needs to be one asked.
I mean, like, all right, I've almost done a 360 or 180 on the whole Muslim is a hate thing, but I don't blame the owner of the gun range for turning them away. I mean, 9/11 happened because those cats that came over here and threw the bomb, and flew the planes into the building, they were living amongst us in the open, going to the airport training schools to fly the planes, going to all kinds of schools and stuff like that. So in that respect, if you don't do the knowledge first, if you're in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and that's where you got your news from, where the 9/11 people came, 9/11 terrorists came from, of course, if you see somebody darker than you, you're going to want to turn them away. So I don't blame the ignorance of, and by the way, Bill Clinton's from Arkansas, Hot Springs, Arkansas as well. So it ain't like, it is the South. So I expect them to be that way. I honestly expect them to be that way, and that's the education level. Now, the second thing I will say in regards to that is, the Muslim faith has to, this is where I did my 180 or 360. The Muslim faith has to take responsibility for their religion. There are crazies. Just like if I'm a Christian, so when Oral Roberts say, if you don't send me $1 million to help me build my ark or build my school, y'all going to hell, I will call him out for the same thing. He's a dummy. So the Muslims need to call out these fanatics that's out here shooting up in Paris and trying to put planes on underwear and drawers and set your balls on fire. They need to call them people out because they done bastardized the religion according to if you want to live in a peaceful world. If you want to, and the same goes for a Christian, the same goes for a Jew, the same goes for a Muslim, same goes for a Hindu. If our God is omnipotent and is the one and only true God, he don't preach that kill the other person or judge the other person because they like another sex, or they don't go to the church, same type of church you go to as many times a week, or they ain't converting to your side. My God don't believe in that. And so when these dummies out here that want to do those things, I have to put accountability on the people in the religious faith of Islam to, hey, you got to speak to that just as well, so, and that causes problems for legitimate, who am I to say call a Muslim legitimate Muslim, but I put the responsibility on the people who live in that faith to step up and have more of a voice than the ISILs, the Al-Qaedas, the Rafsanjanis, and that might be a little bit, off topic or whatever, but that's just how I talk, so. Yeah, I can see why they said, "Oh, get away from here," because they were about to get strung up.
I just feel like that's almost a little. Well, of course, I feel, and I'll say that it's racist. Because my thing is, what if you went in there, Grizzy, and you and your son just want to go shoot, and they said, "Oh no, brother, you a little bit too tanned."
They think I wouldn't blame them for that.
You know, you're not doing anything wrong. So why is it that they're already, stereotyping you with every other dark-skinned brother?
That's because they don't know.
But my thing is, would you be offended?
I wouldn't be offended because I'm first of all, I would think I'm on a different level than the ignorant one. So I know why ignorant people do what they do. A lot of times they do it out of fear, and a lot of times they don't get the same information like somebody who has a little bit of knowledge of self. They don't have that same information. So Jethro sitting in the at a gun range seeing two dog people come in, the first thing he taught is to panic.
I just feel like it's basically ignorance on one half, and of course fear on the other half.
Which is a bad thing.
Going on, and of course, we really can't say too much about them because we look at our own sometimes sideways when we're walking down the sidewalk or in the mall or what have you. So
True.
Even though you say you don't blame them, and I in a way don't either, is it right?
No,
but of
right.
course, because again, what if it was us? What if we all wanted to go in there and shoot?
If they saw a whole bunch of dog people robbing,
and how
killing,
you know we not all ministers?
You don't know,
right?
But the ignorance of the the owner of the gun shop is that's all he know. That's his fault. That's all he know. If he knew a little bit more, he would have been more like understanding and say, "Hey, I'm not going to trip." But
okay.
If he's listening to Fox and Rush and Sean Hannity all day, that's what he's going to do. He's going, and that's his fault. That's not society's fault.
We getting a hit from our brother Hakeem, still listening to us in Jersey.
What's up, Hakeem?
He said, "There's 3 billion Muslims in the world. They aren't accountable for a few crazy asses."
It's true. They're not. They should be because they have bastardized the religion. Just like, again, Oral Roberts or Jimmy Swaggart on a Christian tip, if they say, send me $1 billion to build this ark so that Jesus coming back and everybody can go, I would call them out on they dumbness, on their stupidness. That's why.
I agree with Comedian S. It's racist. And I understand the fear. That's beside the point. It's racist and it's a combination of fear, just like she said. I think it's really, really tacky for you just because someone is darker than you to tell them that they can't come into your establishment.
Of course, it's tacky.
He's not Muslim, and a lot more dark-skinned people may not come in there now, but may try to come in there. It's outright racism.
It is racist. I'm not saying that it's not
It's almost
racist.
like
What I'm saying
you're
is
giving a
that
pass.
you don't have to. But I'll give you an example. We all. I don't know if you all have experienced a violent crime, or been a victim of a violent crime. But let's say you were a victim of the violent crime, and it was traumatic. You got PTSD and all of that, and the victim looked like the Gazoo off of Flintstones. Every time you see the Gazoo, you're going to have an opinion of the Gazoo when you see him, or you see somebody that look like him.
I may fear what happened to me previously.
Unless you do the knowledge and say, not all Gazoos
I
do
got you, Grizz.
what
There it
that
is.
Gazoo do.
I got you, man. But where you lose me and where that theory is flawed is, and I don't like the word minority to refer to people of color because we know people of color are actually the majority. But for the purposes of this country and this discussion, that thought process only works for the majority.
Of course.
Because if you are in the minority, you're going to always
be under that suspicion.
You're going to always be under that suspicion, and it's unfair. And as a black man in this country, everywhere I go, I feel like someone expects that I'm going to be a suspect or negative. I'm gonna do something that's not right based upon the fact that many people who look like me in the past did something that wasn't right. When you made the comment earlier about those Muslims who took the planes and flew them into the building, that's such a small amount of the Islamic faith that if you look at it on a worldwide scale, and I'm not disrespectful to you or anybody who feels that way, but it's absolutely laughable to think that someone who takes a bomb and ties it to himself and goes and blows something up represents the larger majority of the world. I'll give you an example. I was watching Saturday Night Live the other night. I almost never watch it. I watched it because Kevin Hart was on. I don't care for it.
The gentrification skit.
The gentrification skit.
Right.
Exactly. And if for those folks who didn't watch it, it was a skit of three dudes. If you just go off of how they look like, just a couple of regular cats from the hood with the hats and the Timbs and pants and all of that kind of stuff. And the whole point of the skit was you're looking at them and you're supposed to be a bit fearful and you expect to get a certain thing based upon how they look. Right. But if you listen to them talk, they was talking about going to art class and they was talking about
gluten-free muffins.
Gluten-free muffins. And when the dude said that he was rolling with his bitches, he was actually talking about female dogs. Literally.
Yeah.
And
here's my thing, Mark, and I don't want to cut you off. I'll let you get back to it. My point is that skit is indicative of speaking to folks who know stuff. You know what I mean? Who is educated enough to know what the intent of using bitches.
But I mean, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna stop you because it's not my fault that you're not smart enough to understand that I am not representative of everybody who happens to look like me.
So
that's a you problem, right? That's not a me problem.
That's my point that I was stating to everybody on the panel tonight is that it's not my fault that the white gun owner in Hot Springs, Arkansas, is ignorant. All I'm saying is you have to know what to expect from ignorant people. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to
accept it. But if you live in a world where it's against the law to discriminate against a person based upon their race, their sex, their orientation, their religion, all those, you live in a country that purports to do that, then you got every single right to call bullshit when they do it. Of course, but you also live in the same country who killed Martin Luther King, but then turned around 20 years later, made a damn holiday after him.
Except for Arizona.
I mean, that is the epitome of hypocrisy on that. So,
my point. Well, I get what everybody's saying. My point is that, in essence, what I'm arguing is that you should know who you up against, or who's not for you, or what to expect from people who are not on a level you. It's almost what I'll say. It's almost what's the word I want to use? It's like being an elitist against certain people,
right?
And granted, I might not be on, like I said, I don't have all the titles that somebody has, but I get in my head, I'm almost an elitist to Hot Springs, Arkansas. First of all, I would never live in Hot Springs,
Right.
Arkansas. And I don't even want to, I mean, I could speak to Hot Springs, Arkansas's gun owners and tell them that, hey, you're dumb. But 9 times out of 10, you've lived life, you got a family, you're trying to take care, you're running a small business. Your thoughts are your thoughts. And coming through 50 years of civil rights, if you ain't changed the way you believed in, ain't nothing going to change you now.
Hakeem is still listening to us. He says Muslims don't all look the same. There's white ones, there's brown ones, there's black ones, there's yellow ones.
No, but they blow up planes and kill people.
Hey, but you know what though, Grizz? I
Period.
And we also had the DC sniper.
Exactly.
We all thought
Well, see, here's
white
why.
man.
Here's
His
why.
name was Muhammad at the end of the day,
Here's
though.
why I can't let you do that though, because
Okay.
to use your logic, then I need to be fearful and want to have beef with every single white person because the KKK was white.
No, it's not a beef. It's more or less just calling it what it is.
It's
Like,
calling it what it is.
I call it what it is.
because we're gonna go back and forth on this one. I'm not gonna let you just
I want
say
to
that.
debate.
But we can debate because that logic tells me that every single white person I come in contact with, I need to have beef with them because the KKK is white. And I also need to have beef with the Christians, which I am not a part of,
Right.
because they are the same people who was hanging black people in the name of Jesus Christ.
Of course.
And while you swinging from the tree saying, "Oh Lord Jesus, help me,"
Of course.
they saying, "Oh Lord Jesus, fry this."
Fry this Negro.
exactly.
So,
So I can't
this is
roll
what
with
this
you
is,
on that.
right. So this is what my counterpoint to that argument will be. You can try to hate against something that caused you that has oppressed you, and I'm not saying that whatsoever. With Muslims, come on now, not all Muslims are terrorists. I'm not saying that. Not all Christians are judgy, burn hot fire and brimstone type of people. You know, not all Jews wanted Jesus dead. I don't know. It's just not I can't call it. You know, but what I will say is you call a spade a spade. And so in the bigger scheme of things, we have to hold each other humanistically accountable. I'm not talking about the religion is very divisive. So because we got on this religious topic that we're doing on the what the hell, but it's very divisive. So okay, I just told you my divisiveness with Islam. A certain portion of Islam who says that because we live in America, or America is the devil, or whatever. It doesn't even to me. It doesn't even matter the reason why they want to come kill. Not they, but a certain few, a small percentage, a small minority of it. All I'm saying is if Ricky the raccoon breaks into my house and wants to kill my family, when I see a raccoon, I'm gonna bust a cap in his ass.
All right, so if
Period.
I mean, I hear you on that, but I mean,
So I should be benevolent to the raccoon when I see another
no,
one.
it doesn't mean that.
That's
but,
all I'm
but
saying.
I hear you, and I would tend to agree with you. But you gotta what you're not factoring in is the fact that Ricky the raccoon is an isolated individual who happens to be a part of the raccoon family, and people who hate raccoons are going to do everything they can do to make you think that Ricky the raccoon is indicative
Of all raccoons. No, I don't see, and that's the
But see,
difference.
but-
I'm
but see,
not leaning on that.
It's not. It is. You are.
I'm not.
You are.
Exactly what
That's
you're
exactly
saying.
what you're saying.
No,
Because when you say
I'm about to
Muslim,
go. I got white
when you
people in
say-
my family. I got
I mean,
Muslims in my
I
family.
mean, yeah, but you
Doesn't
also.
matter if you're
But
gonna
see,
go
having a
shopping.
Muslim in your family doesn't mean anything when the prevailing opinion is that brown skinned Muslims that are of Middle Eastern descent are the ones that you need to be fearful of. When you get on an airplane and you see one of them, you already shook.
I'm shook.
Are you shook? Are you shook? Are you shook when you find yourself in a rural area and you see a Confederate flag?
Shook.
Are you shook when you go to the hood and you see a dude with his pants sagging?
No.
Because you're a part of that community.
Right.
Exactly. That's the point. You cannot do that. You can do it. I mean, let me rephrase it. You can do it
But
if
you
you
want
want.
me
You
to
can do
see,
it if you
right.
can do it if you want to. But you see where you have, and we all have,
So-
to a certain degree, racist tendencies. Now, I want to introduce another religious-based story here because I think that it is. I think it's a good time to do it. This is about Duke University. I'm getting this one from the Washington Post. They reversed their decision and they canceled the weekly Muslim call to prayer week. They had plans last week to begin a Muslim call to prayer in the campus chapel this week. It was an initiative that, of course, blew up in social media. School spokesman said the Duke Muslim leader said that a serious and credible security threat played a role in the decision. The university had announced that Muslim students would chant the Adhan, the call to weekly prayer service from the Duke University chapel bell, each Friday. The sound of the call to prayer in Muslim communities is a standard part of ritualistic life in Muslims' main prayer day. Theologically, it means Muslims to, quote, to worship God and serve as a reminder to serve brothers and sisters in humanity. Imam Adil Zeb, Muslim chapel at Duke, said in a news release. Franklin Graham, president of the Samaritan's Purse and the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, called on donors and alumni to withhold support from Duke until the policy was reversed. The hashtag boycott Duke spread quickly, and many of the reactions on Twitter referred to a recent terrorist attacks interpreted as anti-Christian move. There's a lot of extra stuff here, but one thing that I want to get in before we get to the discussion, quote, Duke remains committed to fostering an inclusive, tolerant, and welcoming campus for all of its students. Until some shit happened on Duke Schoenfeld, Vice President for Public Affairs and Government Relations, said in the news release. However, it is clear that what was conceived as an effort to unify was not having the same effect. You had a lot going on with that, and then you had actually, let me start getting some commentary. There's a quote that I'm looking for that I'll find after we start talking.
Well, I mean, in essence, and I'll kind of encompass what I'm saying is that communities need to take responsibility for their communities, or the intellectuals or the elite. You can't leave the dummies to run the asylum, you know. And in Islam, I think the terrorists are the dummies that allow, because they do such fantastic things that it gets the notoriety, but you don't see what was the Afghani girl, Malala, who got shot in the head because she wanted to go to school. And you don't see, I won't call them moderates, because we are not, as capitalist Americans, can't determine what somebody else's or what other people's, you know, ideology should be, whether it's you know, a moderate or extreme or whatever. But if the people of rational thought and are true, if I could say that, to their religion or the purpose of their religion, and all religion is trying to bring you one to God, to one to the higher power, then you would condemn. You would not be supportive. You would not be saying death to America or death to anybody else. And so what this Franklin Graham thing is saying, and this Duke thing is, yeah, I mean, pretty much he's saying, I don't want the Muslims to get a call to prayer. Stop it, because it's going to be a problem. Now, for him to get to that space, come on, he's Billy Graham's son. I know who he is. He's a Southern Baptist minister who they probably strung up Negroes 150 years ago. I mean,
but if we understand that, then I guess where you lose me, and you know, you got Muslims in your family. So do I, and you know, I am Muslim friendly. Right. I guess to speak, because living in this country, I know what it's like to be looked upon as being a negative just because of the community that you're part of, and that goes for black people, that goes for all ethnic folks, that goes for homosexuals, that goes for people who happen to not be a part of the predominant religion in this country. I think it's all bullshit, to be honest with you, because if you're not white and Protestant in this country, you're a problem, period. And they will choose whether they will tolerate you or not. If they choose to not tolerate you, then they will do all they can do to either put you in jail, put you in the ground, or sully your name to the point where you cannot function in this country. And that's what happened to Martin Luther King. They chose to kill him. But they realized that there was a groundswell of support for this man posthumously. And so they decided, you know what, let's go ahead and pacify the masses by having a holiday in his name. And what we're going to do is we're going to elevate him to deity while at the same time not allowing you to see his flaws. When I came to the point in my life where I realized how flawed he was, he smoked cigarettes. He hung out with people in pool halls. He cheated on his wife. When all those things came to my mind, That's when Martin Luther King came real
Real
me.
to you, right?
You know what I mean? And that's just me. And this is what happens to anybody who is not a part of the dominant culture in this country. This is what they do.
But I just feel like you can't think that everybody has a perfect story. So I mean, for you to really be shocked that he had flaws, I mean, that kind of takes me by surprise just a little bit. But you know, I mean, I feel like, and I somewhat agree, and then I somewhat don't, because I feel like it really doesn't matter. You're gonna worship who you want to worship. Nobody's gonna care. If you go into the wrong country, they will care and they'll kill you. I mean, so really, you just gotta stand true to who you believe in, what you're gonna do, and just, I mean, let it ride and leave everybody else alone.
On Martin Luther
Totally
King,
agree with that.
On Martin Luther King Day, what I would want all people of religious faith, of ethnic background, of race, creed, is to look deeper inside, look outside of yourself to see that the humanistic qualities that we all have. And I think that's one of the things I take away from Martin Luther King or anybody, speaking on Martin Luther King Day, but anybody who is like preaching freedom, justice, and equality is like, it's bigger than you. So for white man, it's bigger than you and your country, or what you think is your country, America. For Muslim man, it's bigger than you and your caliphate. For Jews, it's bigger than you and your holy land. It's bigger than that, because at the end of the day, we all are human beings that our God, one God, you get to him in different ways you want to, put us here on the earth.
Right.
You know, so what is the purpose of you trying to say that yours is better than the others? The
Because
Christian is better than the Muslim. The Muslim is better than the Christian.
I
The
mean,
Jew
but
is
that-
better. I don't understand that. And so for folks who want to see through all of that clutter, which is somebody like me, I try to see through all of that clutter, and I try to call out people who try, or groups who try to put that clutter in the mix,
Well, I
i.e.
mean, there's
a
certain
terrorist,
people- there's
i.e. a Southern Baptist.
But there's people who live off of that chaos.
I know.
They live off of that chaos, and anytime you speak the truth, you become a enemy. And that's the reason why the Kennedys got killed. That's the reason why Martin is gone, and Malcolm is gone, and Medgar is gone, and those three civil rights workers, Mickey Schwerner and Goodwin and whatever.
Because
the
they
other
came
guy's
to
name.
some type of
Because these are the people who speak the truth. You speak the truth about what the powers that be want to do in this country, and then your ass get taken out. And that's just the reality.
Why they want to kill the truth?
Well, the truth,
The truth hurts
yeah.
pockets, and it hurts votes.
It really does, because
that's why we have crooked people in the government.
I give you a perfect example
That's
before
why
we
you
move
pay
on to our
taxes on
last
stuff
story.
you shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Personal
I give you a
property
perfect
tax.
example of why it's crazy before we take this last story and move on into the What Would Dr. King Say segment that we'll close out the show here with tonight. We remember we don't remember, but we know from our study in slavery that they would not let the slaves read and write.
No,
You
that's
could
for
be, beaten or even killed for learning to read and write. Remember in Roots, when Kizzy wrote the note for Noah and Noah ran away, Kizzy wasn't, sold away because she wrote the note. She was sold away because she knew how to write. That's why she was sold away. And the logic behind that is, if you understand, if you have knowledge, if you know enough to be able to call these people to question about what it is they're doing, you become a threat.
So it's like
And
a
when
Wizard of Oz.
and
You
if
can lift up the curtain.
If you can lift up the curtain, not only do you become a threat, but you become a threat that has to be eliminated. And how you are eliminated is either through, they either kill you, they put you in
Silence you.
jail, or they throw dirt on your name. That's how they do it. And there's precedent for each of those people. Somebody like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they got taken out. Somebody like Warren Ballantyne or Al Sharpton, they got dirt thrown on their name. So that's kind of how I look at that. Ain't no half Steppin, Marcus J. Live from the den. Legacy Internet Radio. Thank y'all listening to us on TuneIn. We know that you rolling in your cars and you got your tablets, or you at the crib with the computer up, and you listening to us here on Legacy Internet Radio with Jay Grizzy and Lissa P. Reunited here on Ain't No Half Steppin, Marcus J. and the co-host. That's why Butler. We appreciate it. Thank you for listening to us in our replays on YouTube. Last thing I want to get to in this segment, Grizz, I want you on this one first, and then I want the co-host to jump in. This one I'm getting from the freethoughtproject.com. Grizz, have you ever seen a situation where a person can shoot a police officer and not ever be charged?
Huh?
Have you ever seen a situation where a person can shoot a police officer and not even be
I'm
charged?
sure that has happened before, but I don't know how they got away with it.
Well, I'm getting this one from Ouachita County in Oklahoma. Sentinel Police Chief Lewis Ross was shot Thursday morning while going into the home of a person suspected of calling in a bomb threat. In a bizarre and questionable situation, Ross was attempting to enter the home of Dallas Horton after Horton allegedly called 911 claiming he was going to detonate a bomb at a nearby school. Sentinel Mayor Sam Degloski said Ross and Washington County deputies traced the caller Horton's home. According to the news station, the mayor said that the police went to the suspect's home, cleared one room in the house. Degloski said as police were working to clear the second room, shots were fired. Ross was wearing a borrowed bulletproof vest when the man inside the residence shot the police chief 4 times, striking him 3 times in the chest and once in the arm. He was taken to the hospital, treated for non-threatening injuries, and released. Washington County deputy loaned the vest to the chief just before he entered the suspect's home. Obviously, the vest saved his life. According to Oklahoma State Investigation Bureau, after the suspect fired the shots, he surrendered to the office. Now, the story becomes a little bit crazy because Horton, who lives in the house with his wife Esther Marie, who they were both taken in custody, is a white man, and the police chief, who he shot in the chest, was a black man. What? Now, oftentimes I'm accused of playing race card, but the reason why I set this up was to ask the question: have you ever heard a situation where a person, a civilian, has shot a police officer and was not charged?
In this case, yes. That's what you. I mean, you threw me for a loop.
I threw you for a loop on purpose. So you're up first.
God. So you mean to tell me the brother, who is the sheriff, rolled up in the house
responding to a bomb threat?
He get 4 bullets put at him.
Yep.
But he in the wrong. Or he there's no charges filed against the person who shot him.
No charges.
Yeah, that's that doo doo. That is that doo doo.
That's why. What you think?
You know, I'm sure they didn't put everything in the story, but his wife home?
The story
She was in the back putting the bullets in the barrel.
The story doesn't allude to that.
Because for them to come in the house, they've got to say who they are. They've got to identify themselves.
I'm the black
at least
police.
I would think so. What the hell? Why he would get 4 bullets?
He was a good shot.
And there are no charges.
I think Marcus is holding on to the rest of this story.
I think Marcus is definitely holding on to the reason
this is
the officer
unbelievable.
got shot.
This is a Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Nah, I gave it to you.
You gave us all there is?
Listen, P, I gave the story as the story is here.
And you know, I actually read this story earlier, and you're right. But the only thing that you actually cleared up for me was I did not know that the officer was black.
Yes.
And I knew the shooter
it's your fault for running up in my house.
So I only felt that as being, of course, another racial issue. Bing, bing, bing. Yeah. And I think also I read in the story, I don't know if it said that it must have
mistaken identity?
No, it was something else I read in the story. I must have got it from somewhere else. I think I read it from CNN. But he heard them enter the home. So, yeah, it did say he shot him 3 times in the chest and once in the arm. So,
who that?
To get back to your question of, have I ever heard of it? No, I have not until today, until I read it and you read it again. And apparently it is something else, a part 2 that may come out tomorrow.
Yeah,
Horton was described by the mayor as a, quote, gun enthusiast and a survivalist. He had posted statements on social media recently about the terrorist group ISIL.
Scared of that ISIL, boy.
Yeah, I mean,
ISIS.
This is
shit.
This is a guy who is known to the police as a survivalist.
Right.
The fact
A nut
that he
freak.
was released means the police didn't have sufficient evidence to paint him as the one who made the bomb threat. As Oklahoma law clearly states, that is a felony offense to make such threats. Oklahoma law clearly states that anyone who makes a bomb threat can face significant prison terms. And there's some law codes here, which I'm not going to read, but I think it's kind of a no-brainer. If you call in a bomb threat, your ass need to go to freaking jail. I just find it curious, and, I don't know if it's appropriate to play the race card here, but I think that it's certainly
You're black, you
appropriate
can't.
to ask the question.
Yes.
If it was a different reversal of the ethnicities, would there be something different? We also know in Detroit, the police raided the home of an old woman looking for a bad guy who wasn't there. In the course of doing so, they killed a young girl, I think she was 7, 8, 9 years old, who was sleeping on the couch, and there were no charges for the police who killed a civilian whose home they broke into. But this is a situation where the police, who we know the law does everything they can do to protect, but they didn't protect him in this case because the dude put 3 in his chest and he ain't even charged.
The complexion didn't fit the situation.
I wonder if it did or if it didn't.
It's apparently it didn't, because I can't think of any other instance where a law enforcement officer is responding to a definite crime type of situation going down. He catches the bullet, but nobody is pushing charges against the shooter. It's unbelievable. It only happens in America when the situation is he's a non-white
I think
individual.
this is one of those situations.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
If we got any of our white brothers and sisters or any conservative, gun enthusiasts or anybody like that that's listening, I would really like your opinion on this one, and let me know if you know of a situation where a civilian shot a cop and did not get charged. When I did stories on the show about blacks who have been shot by police officers and not charged, my inbox was flooded with situations of whites who had been shot by police officers and not charged. So I can dig it. I know you're listening because you flood my inbox with that stuff. Let me know a time when a cop got shot by a civilian and there was no charges. We talk about
bet
that.
I can't get away with it.
You don't have a lonely inbox.
My inbox gonna be empty as hell. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. We're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna get to some fun. We're gonna have a little fun in the name of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. We're going to ask the question, what would Dr. King say? And I got a whole bunch of questions reminiscent of our long lost segment that SY Love called Random. It's similar, if you remember Random, it's similar to that. We're going to ask what Dr. King said, and I'll explain it on the other side. I got Listen PJ Grizzy and the co-host SY, and you know how to step in with Marcus J. Be back in a few minutes. I Have a Dream, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Take a listen. Be back in about 5.